Please like this video. It will really help this story reach as many people as possible. Thank you so much for your support. Madison slapped her wine glass down on the quartz like she was stamping a form. A little red splashed and spread across the stone in a thin, arrogant puddle. I'm not asking for much, she said, arms folded, chin up. One night. Rooftop. View. Atmosphere. Our anniversary. I want a real gesture. I set my coffee down, slow and deliberate, like I was placing a piece on a board. Through the wall of windows, Seattle glittered under a cold sky. The house looked perfect from the outside. Inside, my kitchen suddenly felt like a showroom where I didn't own anything. Madison, I replied, calm. That place isn't one night. The deposit alone is a small vacation. It's not romance, it's a bill. She laughed, not loud, just sharp. You can count profit down to the penny, but you can't be a husband. You're great at being a provider. But as a husband, you're like, you've checked out of the marriage. There it was. Not sadness. Not hurt. A verdict. I watched her face. No tremble, no doubt. Just that look people have when they think they're 2 steps ahead and you're supposed to catch up. You really want to do this? I asked. You want to make this about my worth? She waved a hand like she was brushing away smoke. It's already about your worth. I'm just saying it out loud. My jaw stayed relaxed. My voice stayed level. I pay for this house. I cover the bills. I built the life you post about. And that's the problem, she snapped. That's all you think you are? A wallet with a pulse. I let that hang there a second. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I didn't do the thing she probably wanted so she could label me unstable and feel justified. I picked up my keys from the counter. Where are you going? She demanded. Out, I answered. So I don't say something permanent. Her eyes narrowed. So dramatic. I paused at the doorway and looked back at her. No, I told her. Just controlled. I stepped into the night air and pulled the door closed behind me. The cold hit my face like a reset. I stood on the driveway for a second, staring down at the city lights like they could explain what just happened. I was honest with myself in that moment. I had disappeared into work. I did it because I'm wired that way. Risk, numbers, schedules, deals. And yes, I did it to protect the life we live. But standing there, I realized something uglier. She didn't value it anymore. She was using it. If I'd known where it was headed, I would have treated that wine splash like the first crack in glass, because it didn't stop spreading. I got in my truck, started the engine, and drove with no music. Just the sound of my own thoughts tightening into a plan. That was the night I decided. I'm not going to argue my way back into being respected. I'm going to act. And if she wanted a real gesture, she was about to get one. The kind that comes with a receipt. The next morning, I was at my office before sunrise. My development company sits in a clean building south of downtown. Glass, steel, and people who don't waste words. My assistant, Nina, was already there, typing like she was playing drums. She looked up. You're early. I'm focused, I replied, dropping my jacket on the chair. I need a rooftop reservation tonight. Prime time. Package level. Nina blinked. Tonight? That's ambitious. I don't do impossible, I said. I do expensive. She gave me a look that said she'd seen me bulldoze worse problems. Is this business or personal? I leaned back. Personal is business when it starts costing you. Nina didn't ask more. She just started working her phone like she was calling in favors from a different life. While she worked, I called Madison's sister, Lauren. Lauren's the opposite of Madison. Quieter, less performance, more substance. She lives in Tacoma and teaches. She doesn't talk in captions. She answered on the second ring. Ethan, hey, I said. I need you to show up tonight. Anniversary dinner. Rooftop. A beat of silence. That sounds intense. It's not a trap, I told her. It's a gesture. But I want witnesses. People who matter. Lauren exhaled. Okay, are you all right? I'm fine, I said. I'm just done being spoken to like I'm disposable. Madison can get sharp, she admitted carefully. Sharp is fine, I replied. This is something else. I hung up and texted 2 couples we'd known for years, Mark and Tessa, and Joel and Candace. Not random acquaintances. People who had sat at my table, eaten my food, and looked me in the eye. Then Nina walked in with a sheet of paper like it was a peace treaty. I got it, she said. Private corner. Deposit is brutal. I read the number and almost smiled. Perfect. She hesitated. Anything else? Live music, I said. Jazz trio. Classy, not cheesy. Nina nodded like she was already hearing it. Done. By noon, I had confirmations, times, names, a seating plan, and an invoice that could have funded a small remodel. I put everything into a clean folder, the way I would for a lender, because that's how my brain works. If you're going to do something, you do it all the way. I got home earlier than normal. Madison's car was in the driveway. She was in the kitchen again, phone in hand, scrolling like the world was in there, and I was just an interruption. I set the folder on the island. Here, I said. She glanced at it like it was junk mail. What is that? Your anniversary, I answered. Rooftop. Deposit paid. Jazz trio. Your sister. Our friends. Everything you wanted. She finally looked up, and I saw the brief flicker of surprise. Not warmth. Not gratitude. Surprise, like she hadn't expected me to respond with strength. She opened the folder, scanned the pages, and closed it again. Well, she said, voice flat. Okay. I waited. Nothing came. So, I asked, you're happy? Her eyes returned to her phone. Of course. The words sounded like a favor, like I'd asked her to approve a refund. I let a small breath out through my nose. You know what's funny? She didn't look up. This should be good. You demanded a gesture, I said. I delivered the exact thing you described, and you can't even pretend to enjoy it. She tilted her head, finally giving me her face. It's a little flat. I stared at her. Flat. Like wallpaper, she added, casual, almost bored. You're only romantic when things explode. That's not romance, Ethan. That's damage control. There it was again. Not thank you. Not even, I see you tried. Just a new way to move the goalposts and keep me in debt. I nodded once slow. Got it, I said. See you tonight. Her eyebrows lifted. That's it. That's it, I replied. I'm not negotiating your mood. I walked out of the kitchen and upstairs to change. In the closet, I pulled out my suit and stood there for a second, staring at the shirts like they were choices in a different life. Downstairs, I heard Madison laughing at something on her phone. Not with me. Not at me. Just around me, like I was furniture. Let me pause the story for just a second. If you're still listening, please hit the like button on this video. It really helps YouTube show this story to more people. Thank you so much for the support. Now let's get back to the story. I buttoned my cuffs and made myself another promise. Tonight, I'm watching everything. I'm not going to feel my way through it. I'm going to see the truth in real time. And if she wants to perform, I'll let her. I just won't be the one paying the emotional bill afterward. The rooftop was exactly what Madison loved. Lights, glass, people dressed like they had somewhere important to be. Seattle stretched out below us, clean and cinematic. The jazz trio played smooth, controlled music. The staff moved like they were trained to never show stress. Madison walked in like she owned the place. Her dress was perfect, hair perfect, smile perfect. She took in the room and the view and the attention the way some people inhale oxygen. She touched my arm lightly. This is nice. Not thank you, just a review. Lauren hugged Madison first, then hugged me and held on a second longer, like she was checking if I was still intact. Mark and Tessa arrived, then Joel and Candace. Everyone smiled. Everyone looked at us like we were a brochure. Madison floated. She greeted, laughed, complimented, posed for quick photos. I stood beside her, technically included, emotionally invisible. I leaned in once, quiet. Hey, you want to sit with me for a minute? She didn't even turn her head. In a second. That second never came. At the table, she sat angled outward, not toward me. Her knee didn't touch mine. Her hand didn't find my arm. Her eyes didn't meet mine unless someone was watching. Candace leaned toward me at one point. This is beautiful, Ethan. Seriously. Glad you made it, I replied. Joel raised his glass. To you too. We clinked. Madison smiled for the group and didn't look at me once. Then Madison stood. She tapped her glass with a spoon, light and practiced. People quieted. The skyline hummed behind her like a set. Okay, she announced, bright. I just want to say something. I sat back, my hands resting on the table, relaxed. My face stayed neutral. Inside, I felt something harden because I could already tell this wasn't about us. This was about her moment. She smiled at the group. Anniversaries are funny, right? You think you know what you're signing up for, and then life gives you habits, routines, expectations. Small laughs around the table. Madison turned slightly toward me, just enough for the camera in her head. And Ethan, she said, sweet as icing. He's a man of numbers. A builder. A provider. That word again. Provider. Like it was a job title, not a partnership. She raised her glass. So if anyone here wants to try my bitter husband. The table froze for half a breath. Then people gave those awkward laughs people do when they want to pretend something isn't ugly. I watched Madison's face as she delivered it. No embarrassment. No stumble. It landed exactly where she aimed it. Mark's smile faltered. Tessa looked down at her plate. Lauren's mouth tightened. Joel shifted in his chair. I didn't move. I didn't blink hard. I didn't rescue the mood for her. Madison's eyes flicked to me, checking for impact. Testing. I gave her nothing. Then Sabrina leaned in. Sabrina is Madison's longtime friend. PR world, loud confidence, talks like every room owes her space. She always had a little edge, but tonight she sounded like she'd been waiting for permission. Sabrina smirked. Honestly, he just needs a different woman to bring him to life. A few more forced laughs. Someone coughed. The jazz trio kept playing like they were paid to ignore reality. I turned my head towards Sabrina and held her gaze. Keep that to yourself, I said calm. Sabrina lifted her eyebrows. Oh, come on. It's a joke. I nodded once. Then find a different joke. She opened her mouth again, but I didn't give her the runway. Not here, I added, even and clear. Sabrina leaned back, eyes narrowing. She glanced at Madison like she expected backup. Madison took a sip of wine, slow, like she was watching a show. No defense. No stop. No, that's enough. That was the moment my brain clicked something into place. This wasn't her losing control. This was her enjoying control. Lauren leaned toward Madison. Mads, what are you doing? Madison waved her off. Relax. We're having fun. I looked at Madison. Are we? She smiled at me like I was a child being difficult. Don't make this weird, Ethan. I'm not making anything, I replied. I'm noticing. Madison's smile tightened. Please. Not tonight. Translation, don't ruin my image. She leaned in and touched my arm again. Light pressure. Come get some air with me. Not an apology. A management move. I stood. Sure. We walked toward the edge of the rooftop where the glass railing overlooked the city. The air was colder there. The wind cut through the performance. Madison turned on me, voice low and controlled. What is your problem? I looked at her, steady. You humiliated me at my own table. She scoffed. Oh my God, you're so sensitive. No, I replied. I'm precise. Her eyes flashed. It was a joke. A joke is when both people laugh, I said. You laughed. They laughed because they didn't know what else to do. I didn't laugh. Madison's lips pressed together. You're going to ruin the night over one comment. I held her gaze. You already did. You just want me to pretend you didn't. Behind her, I saw Sabrina approaching, slower now, less swagger. She stopped near us, not part of the couple's conversation anymore, just a person who'd realized she stepped on something sharp. Sabrina spoke quietly, not joking. Ethan, that wasn't normal. Madison's head snapped toward her. Sabrina, stop. Sabrina ignored her and looked at me. You built a whole night for her. She used it to put you down. That's not a slip. I stared out at the city for a second, then back at Sabrina. Why are you telling me this? Sabrina shrugged, awkward. Because I have eyes. And because watching her treat you like background, it's ugly. Madison's voice sharpened. Are you seriously doing this right now? Sabrina's tone stayed flat. You did it first. I almost laughed, but it didn't reach my face. Madison stepped closer to me, lowering her voice again. Don't listen to her. She's dramatic. I looked at Madison. You know what's dramatic? Turning an anniversary into a public audition where I'm the joke. Her eyes narrowed. So what? You're going to storm out? That'll look great. There it was. The truth. Not about love. About optics. I nodded slowly. I'm going to do what I want. That's how this works now. Madison's mouth opened, then closed. She wasn't used to that. I walked back to the table, picked up my jacket, and leaned toward Lauren. I'm leaving, I told her. Lauren's eyes widened. Ethan, I'm not doing a scene, I said. I'm doing a boundary. I turned to the group and gave them a clean smile. Thanks for coming, I said. Enjoy the night. Mark looked like he wanted to stand up and follow me. Tessa looked relieved I was moving with dignity instead of chaos. Joel just nodded, heavy. I didn't look at Madison on the way out. I didn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me react. In the elevator down, my phone buzzed twice. Madison. I didn't answer. By the time I hit the street, I already knew where I was going. And I knew I wasn't sleeping under that glass roof tonight. Derek opened his door in sweatpants with a basketball game on behind him. Derek's my friend from way back, construction days, before my company had a receptionist and a logo. He's blunt, loyal, and allergic to nonsense. He took one look at my face. Don't tell me. Anniversary went great. I walked in and hung my jacket over a chair. If great means my wife turned me into a punchline in front of our friends, then yeah, 5 stars. Derek whistled low. Wow. I sat on his couch, elbows on my knees, not collapsing, just settling. Derek handed me a bottle of water without asking. That's the kind of friend he is. No speeches, just tools. He sat across from me. Tell me the clean version. I gave him the clean version. The demand. The cold. The night. The toast. Sabrina's comment. Madison watching it like it was entertainment. Derek shook his head. That's not a rough patch. That's disrespect on purpose. I looked at my hands, then up. I paid for everything tonight. Not just money. Effort. Thought. Time. She acted like it was late rent. Derek snorted. Because it wasn't about the dinner. I leaned back. Yeah, I'm starting to see that. He pointed at me. Say it out loud. I stared at him. She stopped seeing me. Derek nodded once. Keep going. And I let it happen, I added. I kept trying to buy peace. Trips, gifts, fixes, date nights. I showed up. Not perfectly, but I showed up. And she treated it like the minimum. Derek's voice went harder. Because as long as you chase, she stays in control. I let that sit. The game on TV was just noise. My phone buzzed again. Madison. Then again. Then a text. You embarrassed me. Call me. I held the screen out to Derek. Derek laughed once, humorless. She's mad you didn't stay and take it. I set the phone face down. I'm not going back tonight. Derek nodded. Good. Sleep here. A knock came at the door, not even 20 minutes later. Derek raised an eyebrow like, no way. He opened it, and Madison walked in like she paid rent. She wore the same dress. Hair still perfect. Smile gone. Her eyes were sharp. What are you doing? Derek asked, blocking the doorway. Madison stepped around him anyway. I'm talking to my husband. Derek looked at me. You want me to toss her? I stood up, calm. No. Let her talk. Madison turned to me. How could you leave? Do you understand how that looked? I tilted my head. You mean how it looked when you publicly mocked me and I didn't sit there smiling? Her eyes flared. Don't twist this. You made a scene. I left quietly. I replied. You made the scene. I just refused to be the prop. She scoffed. Sabrina was joking. Sabrina crossed a line, I said. And you watched. Madison stepped closer, lowering her voice like she could still control the temperature. I didn't watch. I was trying to keep it light. You were enjoying it, I corrected. Her face tightened. You always do this. You take one moment and turn it into a whole story. I nodded slowly. Funny, because you took one anniversary and turned it into a public ranking of my value. Madison's voice rose. I wanted you to show up. Not just pay for things. Not just hand me a folder like you're closing a deal. I held her gaze. I did show up. You called it wallpaper. She opened her mouth, then shut it. Her eyes flickered, calculating. Then her whole posture changed. Shoulders softened. Voice dropped. Hands reached for me. Okay, she said, suddenly gentle. I'm sorry. I went too far. That softness hit like a switch flipping. It wasn't warm. It was tactical. Madison touched my arm. Come home. Please. Let's not do this at Derek's. I looked down at her hand on my sleeve and then back at her face. You're apologizing because you lost control, I said. Not because you respect me. Her eyes flashed again, but she held the gentle tone. That's not true. I pulled my arm back, smooth. I'm not coming home tonight. Madison's breath caught. Ethan. No. I cut in, still quiet. You don't get to insult me publicly and then manage me privately. Derek cleared his throat behind her like punctuation. Madison's eyes darted to him, then back to me. She tried again, softer, almost pleading. I miss you. I nodded once. You miss the version of me that stays. Her mouth tightened. So what? You're punishing me. I gave a small, dry smile. I'm not punishing you. I'm changing access. Madison stared like she didn't understand the language. I walked past her toward the hallway Derek pointed to earlier. I'm going to sleep, I said. You should go. She stood there, stunned, the way people look when the ATM says declined, and they don't know why. As I disappeared down the hall, I heard her voice rise behind me, sharp again. This is ridiculous. Derek's voice answered, calm and final. So is what you did. I closed the guest room door, sat on the edge of the bed, and stared at the wall. My head wasn't spinning. It was clearing. Because her apology had a price tag on it. And I wasn't paying anymore. A week passed with silence that wasn't peaceful. Madison texted, called, left voicemails that shifted tone every day. Angry, sweet, wounded, confident. I didn't respond. Not because I was playing games. Because I was watching patterns. At work, Nina noticed. You're quieter, she said one morning, sliding a contract onto my desk. I'm efficient, I replied. She studied me. If you need a clean schedule this week, I can clear it. I looked up. Actually, yeah, clear my evenings. And I want my personal accounts separated by Friday. Nina didn't flinch. Understood. That was my initiative. Not petty. Not emotional. Structural. I moved my direct deposits. I separated business and household expenses even harder. I reviewed what I was funding under the banner of us. Not as revenge. As reality. On day 7, I drove back to the house on the hill. The outside looked the same. Landscaped shrubs, tidy driveway, porch light glowing like a welcome sign. The place still screamed stability. It was a good illusion. Madison loved illusions. I walked in with my own key. The house smelled clean, staged, like she'd been preparing for a showing. Madison appeared from the hallway like she'd been waiting behind a curtain. Her face collapsed into relief. She rushed to me and wrapped her arms around my torso, tight. Oh my God, she breathed. You're here. I'm so sorry. I didn't understand how much I needed you until you were gone. Her voice cracked. Tears. Real looking. Hands gripping my back like she was afraid I'd vanish again. For half a second, I almost believed it. Then I caught a scent on her hair and collar. Not hers. Not mine. A crisp, masculine cologne. The kind people wear when they want to be remembered. I stepped back, not jerking away, just creating space. Madison's eyes widened. What? I stared at her, calm. Who was here? She blinked fast. What are you talking about? Who was in this house? I repeated. Madison laughed nervously. Ethan, are you serious? I didn't raise my voice. Answer the question. Her eyes darted to the side, toward the living room, like an exit sign had appeared. You're being paranoid, she said quickly. I've been alone. I've been miserable. I barely sleep. I nodded once. Who was here? Madison's tone shifted to irritation. You're doing this right now? After a week of ignoring me? You come back and accuse me. I didn't accuse, I replied. I asked. She threw her hands up. Fine. A partner from work stopped by. We talked. Because I was falling apart and you weren't here. I watched her face as she said it. The order of her words. The timing. The small pause before partner. What's his name? I asked. Madison hesitated. Why does it matter? Let me pause the story for just a second. If you're still listening, please hit the like button on this video. It really helps YouTube show this story to more people. Thank you so much for the support. Now let's get back to the story. I let out a short breath. Because if it doesn't matter, you can say it. Her jaw tightened. Ryan. I nodded like I was checking a line item. Ryan was here. Yes, she snapped. From my firm. We're building new accounts. He came by to talk. I looked at her, still calm. And you slept with him? The room went silent. Not dramatic silent. Just empty. Madison didn't answer. Her eyes dropped, then lifted, then dropped again. That pause told me more than any story she could have invented. I waited. Not because I needed the truth. Because I wanted her to feel the weight of it. Finally, she gave a small nod. Barely visible. Like she was signing something she couldn't unsign. There was no yelling. No big movement. Just my brain filing the fact into the correct folder. Done. I stared at her, voice low and steady. So while you were texting me about respect and anniversaries, you were doing that. Madison's eyes filled again. You left me. What did you expect? I was lonely. I tilted my head. I expected an adult to handle loneliness without crossing lines. She stepped toward me, frantic now. It didn't mean anything. It was a mistake. I was hurt. I held up a hand, not aggressive, just stopping her words. Don't, I said. Don't sell me a story. I'm not your audience. Madison's voice cracked. Ethan, please. I glanced around the living room. The expensive furniture, the curated art, the big windows, everything I'd built like a fortress. I looked back at her. You want to know what the difference is between you and me? She swallowed. What? When I'm unhappy, I fix it or I leave, I replied. I don't poison it and call it lonely. Madison reached for my arm again. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can. No, I cut in. We're not doing a third act. Her face twisted. So you're just done? I nodded once. I'm done. Madison's voice sharpened with panic. You can't just walk away. This is our life. I looked at her, steady. It was. You changed the terms. I turned and walked toward the stairs. Where are you going? She demanded, following. To get my things, I replied. She scoffed through tears. You're being dramatic. I stopped on the first step and looked back at her. No, I said. I'm being exact. Upstairs, I went straight to the closet. I didn't rage pack. I packed like a man who's moving on schedule. Shirts, suits, boots, my watch box, my documents, my laptop. The essentials. The rest could stay. She could keep the furniture she loved posing with. Madison hovered in the doorway, shaking. You're really doing this, she whispered. I zipped a bag and looked up. You thought I was just a provider. Congratulations. You're about to see what life looks like without the part you mocked. Her eyes widened. You wouldn't. I gave her a small, tired smile. I already am. Downstairs, I carried my bags to the door. Madison followed like she might physically block me, then remembered she couldn't. Ethan, she said, voice smaller now, please. Don't do this. I set the bags down by the doorway and faced her fully. I'm going to say this once, I told her. You don't get access to me, my home, and my resources while treating me like a background character. She shook her head. I didn't treat you like background. I lifted an eyebrow. You called me bitter in public. You watched your friend suggest replacing me. You came to Derek's apologizing only when you lost control. And now you want me to forget what I just learned. Madison's lips trembled. I was scared. I nodded slowly. Good. Hold on to that. It'll keep you honest with yourself. She stepped closer, desperate. Where will I go? I looked around at the house. You're in a house on a hill. You'll figure it out. That landed. Her face tightened. You're doing this to hurt me, she snapped, trying to grab control again. I picked up my keys, then paused. No, I replied. I'm doing this to protect me. I opened the front door. Cold air rushed in. The porch light glowed like nothing in the world had changed. Madison's voice rose behind me. You'll regret this. I turned back one last time and met her eyes. I regret staying polite while you got comfortable being cruel, I said. That's the only regret I'm taking with me. Then I stepped out, picked up my bags, and shut the door. Not softly, not angrily. Final. Here's the part people don't show you in photos. When a man stops funding a fantasy, the fantasy collapses fast. I didn't call her names. I didn't do public drama. I just changed the structure. I moved into a clean condo closer to my office, with a view I actually enjoyed because nobody was using it as a stage. I put my energy into projects that made money and didn't ask me to shrink to make someone feel tall. I spent weekends with Derek and a couple of guys from the old days. Real conversations, no performance. Madison tried different angles for a while. Sweet texts. Angry texts. We should talk. Then silence. Then one last attempt that sounded like a press release. I didn't answer. A few months later, I heard through Lauren, because Lauren stays human, that Madison had to downsize. The agency took a hit. Some clients didn't love the drama that followed her like perfume. Her world got quieter when there weren't as many people to impress. Me? I got quieter on purpose. I started seeing a woman named Claire, mid-40s, grounded, zero interest in turning life into content. The first time she cooked dinner at my place, she didn't take a picture of the plate. She just looked at me and said, "You work hard. You should eat like someone who's allowed to relax." That hit harder than any rooftop view. Sometimes I drive up near the old neighborhood, just passing through, and I see the hills and the lights and the big windows. And I don't feel nostalgia. I feel clarity. Because I learned a simple rule the hard way. If someone wants you as a provider but treats you like an inconvenience, they don't want a marriage. They want a system. And I don't live inside systems that don't respect me. Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I'll be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.